Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This is a Revolution, your post Revolution Rumble episode. I'm George, here as always, joined by my good friend, Mr. Dave the Mark. Dave, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm bit tired and croaky from a loud and busy, hot day at the wrestling yesterday, but coffee's in my system and school flew by today, so I am ready for what will be a very quick week, and then a week off wrestling next weekend, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, this
Nice to have a weekend. Nice to have a weekend away from it all. Perfectly timed because it's my daughter's birthday. Sophie's 11 on Saturday. So, and then we'll get back to the 229 the week after.
Love it, mate. That sounds like a good week to have a week off as well. Thank you, Andy Quilden, for just timing that so nicely.
I mean, I cannot argue with the Rev Pro schedule.
Yeah,
I managed to avoid all three of my children's birthdays, my wife's birthday, and our wedding anniversary.
Yeah, couldn't fucking avoid when I've got Alice Cooper and Judas Priest tickets, could you?
No, this is it. No. Alice Cooper trumps Mercedes Moné and Tetsuya Naito and Bushi, eh?
Absolutely. Look, I'm sure it's going to be a great card for all of those people that are going to be able to make it. I'm gutted I can't make it, but hey, I've already had one match. So, and I don't deserve another Naito match. The only time I ever seen Naito in Rev Pro was Global Wars 2015. I'm like, who's this Naito guy? But then I was quite oblivious to most New Japan guys. I didn't know much about Tanahashi other than this man has really nice hair and does a cool air guitar.
That's how I react every time I see Trent Seven.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dave, you know what? We're going to jump straight into it, mate. As much as I'm sure the people come on here to listen to our banter about how our weeks have been and what's been happening, I only saw you yesterday, mate, and most people saw us yesterday as well. So we can dive straight into this.
Plus, we've got 55 minutes till I want to buy a Mercedes Moné ticket for a Pro at Summer Sizzler.
This is where I'm going to go and extol the virtues of why I think, or give you like 10 reasons why I think a certain title run should have carried on and go to nuance. So, no, I'm not going to do that to you, mate. Right, so, Dave, you know what? I'm going to kick off. Just go through order of the card because that seems the most, the best way of doing it actually tonight. The first question for you: do you think now was the right time to end Will Caven's title run?
Yeah, I do, mate. I do. I think that Will did a great job of like solidifying the championship and bringing a bit of kind of consistency back for it. I don't prescribe to the argument that he didn't defend it enough. I think that's well within his character, and also you think in the time that he held the belt, we had defense. We had two defenses against Cameron Kai, defense against Lio Rush, defense against Will Caven, and against Robbie X and Stephen Wolf. But we also had non-title clean victories over Nino Bryant and Leon Cage and Xander Bryant. Like, I feel like there was enough work there. It really, really pleased me to see the relationship. Like, it benefited both. He benefited massively from having the belt, but the belt also benefited from having a champion who we're seeing on shows regularly. I think, you could argue that maybe if it had gone to the anniversary show, it would have been a bigger moment for whoever won it. But like Nino winning the J Cup, it's like it's hot right now. Like, so Nino's the perfect person from J Cup last week to Rumble this week. The calendar's worked beautifully for it this year. And now I'm hoping we'll get Nino versus Chris Ridgway again for the anniversary show, but I feel like that would be a really good one because Nino survived Ridgway at the J Cup. I think it's now Nino's test to be able to actually beat him rather than just survive him. And I think Ridgway deserves a a prominent match on that card or on one of those two nights. So yeah, I'm happy, mate. What about you?
Yeah, I think now was the right time as well. Look, I back and forthed it and said, when you're this close to the anniversary show, do you want to continue it and do it there? But actually, when I'm saying that, I had that in mind as that's the anniversary show is the next show. Of course, it's not. We know about Summer Sizzler now, and also that's still 2 months
And there's
away.
a lot of ritual shows as well in between,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's a busy couple of months.
There's 2 months to go there, so I don't feel that. I kind of had this thing of, if you're taking it off someone now, does that give enough time to build up to the big show? Yes, it does. So I think now is a good time. It was a great moment for Nino. The crowd became unglued. I've seen discourse around this match. Did the card benefit from having this match? Because comparatively, when you look at the bigger hitters from your last year, you could argue that some of the bigger hitters there were bigger in terms of name value. But I feel that this was one where, like you mentioned, the title reign was a longer established reign there. It was a big moment for Nino. And I also think as well that you've got to give the undercard matches, these cruiserweight title matches. And I think for a lot of people, there's a feeling that the cruiserweight division has been off the boil a little bit, because while there's been some things going on, it's been dominated by a heel champion, right, for a long time now. I think you've got to put these matches on the card. You've got to have these big moments. Your call, title winning, it all aligned nicely.
That one baffles me, mate, to be honest, because last year the opening match was Leon Slater versus Josh Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
This year it was Will Hayden versus Nino Bryan. So on one hand, you could say Leon Slater versus Josh Alexander are two much bigger names in the world of professional wrestling than Will Haven and Nino Bryan. But if you gave me a choice, do I want to watch a one-off like dream match, but ultimately an exhibition between Josh Alexander and Leon Slater, or do I want to watch a championship match where there's real jeopardy over who's going to win, whether it's the champion's going to retain and it be really unpopular, or have this hero moment for someone who's been built up within the scene and is getting the biggest night of their career? 100% I'd want the second one.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that's where you can show the two ways of consuming and enjoying live wrestling, right? Like, you've got that element which you put both onto me. I could make a case for either. Like, I could really make that case of, I'm seeing a real titan of the game in someone like a Josh Alexander going up against someone who, while he is, you could argue, is he an up and comer? Like with Leon, he's a really weird when every time you consider his age. So I can see both sides to it. I thought this was a good way to kick off the show. I thought it was a big moment. I think Will has done really well in his title run. It was a very unpopular choice when he won the title. I didn't see the vision. The growth that I've seen in him as a performer, in terms of what he's done in the ring, and I've even said it in terms of his ring work, I've seen improvements all round there. So I'm really happy. It'll be interesting to see where he goes next. I think he's earned himself.
Yeah, I also, like, to link it to something we talked about previously, I wonder if with him losing the title, we see the end of the Caven, True and Lacey alliance, and if now is the time that we get to see True and Lacey work face in Rev Pro.
I would
get
love
to
it.
see them as the plucky underdogs who can't win.
Yeah, that would be really, really. I think there's money there in face True and Lacey. And we'll probably cover some of that when we talk about the Rumble, actually, because that had some moments in like that. I also think placement on the card is important. So to have these big moments, you've got to make sure that you have them placed correctly on the card. I think if this match was anything but the opener as well, then I think it would have struggled. But it set the tone nicely for the show.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, genuinely, I think the first half was perfect for this show.
Yeah.
You start with the great moment of Nino winning. You then have Emerson Jane and Kanji, which you know that Summer Sizzler is getting announced. Summer Sizzler, in fact, was announced 10 minutes before the show started online. you know that Mercedes is coming back. So all of these, any match that involves women has stakes to it because you
Yeah.
know, like someone's getting the big title shot in Wolverhampton,
Yeah.
and so that immediately, no one said number one contenders match. No one's put that out there officially, but every women's match has the potential to be a number one contenders match now.
Yeah.
Even if that is, as you said yesterday, a potential three-way or four-way with Serena Deeb and Lizzie Evo and Mercedes as well. So I think opening with Nino and Caven, then going into Emerson and Kanji, which I think was a step up in terms of quality, simply from the amount of experience that the two women have got, where they both are in British wrestling, and what they can deliver, and kind of not. It's not a step up or a step down in stakes. It's more sort of like it is a step down officially, but it's more of an adjacent move because it's another match with stakes. Then you've got Manders versus Mills, which I'm sure we will purr about. And then CPF and Young Guns, which for many people, I was told, was their match of the night. So that first half just seemed like a perfect fit for me.
Yeah, I was really interested, and going into obviously we did our predictions of who we thought were gonna win. I was adamant that Caven was retaining. I said Caven was going to retain. You had a Nino win, so first point on the board today, the mark. Kanji versus Emerson Jane. I feel like we were both in the Kanji camp there for this.
Yeah, we
as
both
well.
went Kanji.
But do you think that? I mean, looking at obviously the landscape that we've got, do you think Kanji was the right decision? Do you think Emerson Jane, it would have been interesting for her to pick up a win? Did you think at any time Emerson Jane was going to win this match? Because for me, the thing that they did really well in this. I think Kanji was the right decision, but throughout the match, they had me going, what if Emerson did pick up the win? And they had me.
I'll be honest, I never got there with it. Lots of people were talking to me like prior to the show and saying how they thought Emerson was going to win this, and I never felt like she was, because I didn't see Emerson coming into Rev Pro and the storyline with Kanji as being one of setting Emerson up. I felt like it was more like a side quest for Kanji after the first Monet match, how Emerson had won kind of nefariously, so therefore Kanji was getting her match back. I think there is too much money already invested in Kanji and to be made from Kanji to not have Kanji versus Mercedes 2. I felt like that from the moment that Mercedes defeated her. The video packages that they did and the amount of time and effort that went into building up Kanji prior to her match with Mercedes, and the story that she told just had me so captivated that, like, genuinely as a fan, if Kanji doesn't finish her story with Mercedes, like, and I say that not to be tongue-in-cheek and silly, but actually on purpose, because it would feel like Cody not being able to defeat Roman Reigns. It would feel like, Moxley not getting toppled by one of the big AEW names that's been trying to get there. It would feel like Gabe Kidd not eventually becoming undisputed IWGP Heavyweight Champion, which obviously he hasn't yet, but has to happen in the next 2 years. So for me, it always felt like Kanji would. I'm curious. I personally don't think Mercedes Moné will wrestle at the anniversary show. I keep coming back to this. If I was Tony Khan, I wouldn't let any of my Forbidden Door wrestlers work Rev Pro on the Friday or the Saturday. I would let somebody who is not involved in Forbidden Door do it, because why not? But anyone who I have advertised and am selling tickets for people to come and see, I'm not letting them risk their bodies or potential injury to work an independent show, no matter how much I like the owner or get on well with the owner there. So for me, Summer Sizzler is the big Mercedes match. So I'm very curious to see what direction they go. If Kanji's in the match, I think Kanji's winning it and taking the belt off of Mercedes. If Kanji's not in the match, I think that means Mercedes retains. The Mercedes Rev Pro love, the romance continues beyond the anniversary show up to later on in the year, and the next time we can have Mercedes here, and then Kanji takes it from her. Effectively, I've just got tunnel vision on Kanji winning because I don't want anything else.
Yeah,
But
you know
that's
what?
purely from a genuine fan perspective, not some smart mark kind of
No, I know.
analysis. Just that's what I want because I'm invested.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I know when we discussed that, I was fully on board that I thought Alex Windsor was winning it, but look, that's not going to happen now. We know that's not going to. Well, I say it's not going to happen. It could they have a match at Forbidden Door, and that's how you do the Rev Pro title match. That could happen. And you have Alex
Anything
Windsor.
is possible ultimately, right?
Yeah, exactly, and
We
that's
know
what
how much wrestlers like to work.
Yeah, you're right in the sense of I think when Kanji and Mercedes get in a ring with each other next time, I think that's when the title changes. I think Kanji has to be the person to take the title from Mercedes. So I would agree with you. So I'm watching Summer Sizzler thinking, what is going to happen here? I'll be honest, I've not even considered the anniversary show not having Mercedes. And that is even with the points you make very fair and points that I'd probably make as well.
And I might be completely off there.
But again, like you said, this is the beauty of anything could happen, and both reasons that we've got are logical reasons for why she would be there. For me, I think the whole night one is going to be built around her. That's what I think. I think that is the main event. Whether that's in a triple threat match where she can afford to not work as much, that remains to be seen, and probably would be the way if that happened. On the flip side, coming out of this match, I thought the match was fantastic. I thought it was a real technical affair that was hard hitting, strike, all of that sort of stuff that you would associate with these two women. The animosity amped up as well. I really like how Emerson Jane came out of it. She had a lot of crowd reaction behind her. A lot. That was the most split crowd I've ever. I mean, it was a bit bizarro world in there last night. Anyway, with just the bits that you would normally expect people to cheer for and boo for wasn't necessarily happening. It was very popular. There was a lot of can she do it? No, she can't, because people were then chanting for Emerson, and it was like, oh, interesting. So there's a lot of backing there. I'm curious to see what comes for her. I know that I've been kind of talking about a reimagined version of the Cutthroat Collective with Alex not here now, with Nina not being around as much, and I've pitched that that's why we get Hyperactive in the Cutthroat Collective, and I'm thinking, could Emerson be that fifth person in there? So you've got Emerson, Mercedes, Hyperactive, with Lizzie as the focal point of the Cutthroat Collective. I'd like to see, whatever it is, I'd like to see her doing something substantial. And I also think, actually, with the Cutthroat Collective, as big as that group has been and as important as it's been, would that be a waste of her? Is she someone who's, I'm not saying that the other women aren't, but good enough to stand on her own and not have a group around her as well? I'm interested to see what's next for Emerson Jane.
With Emerson Jane, if she is like the Jay Joshua model or the Charlie Sterling model. Like, Charlie came in to work a program with JJ Gow last year, didn't he? Program was completed. Charlie's gone off doing his work in all of the other companies that he works for, and I'm sure at some point in a year or two we'll see Charlie Sterling back in Rev Pro. Whereas Jay Joshua although he was debuting and it was ever so slightly different because of that. But when he came in, whatever it was, I mean, just how fucking awesome he just stuck. And once he had that first match, he just kept coming back and back and back and back and back. So I'm curious. I'll be honest. I know not a judgment of Emerson in ring or anything like that. I think she's been excellent, but I always envisioned it more as the Charlie Sterling model, that she'd come in, work her little series with Kanji, and then we might not see her again for a little while. You know, like Charlie Evans came over and did hers. Obviously, Emerson's not coming over to the country, but coming over to the promotion for a set number of dates, and then she's very much in demand, isn't she? So I imagine that it's whereas Jay Joshua's calendar might have been open enough where he could say, if you want me, I'm going to make sure I'm available. I'd be surprised if Emerson could do that. So it might be that she goes off and then comes back, like Manders did. Manders came over, worked a couple of dates, formed a good relationship, and then has been booked in since. But there was that period where he first went back to America. Maybe Emerson goes back to continue her dates with all the other companies she works with and then comes back to Rev Pro. Yeah. Or maybe that's just, it's like the Nightshade run of last year, the Debbie Keitel run. She's done a little bit. We'll see her again at some point down the line.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it's more the Jay Joshua style of booking. I think if there's one thing looking at the women's roster in the last year is that we've seen how much it's opened up and that there's now more women being booked. I think we've said there's more. I think when we looked at Doncaster show, I think we said something like there was more women booked in one match than different women that were booked over the whole year or something like that in the gauntlet. Yeah. Like there was a match. So we're certainly opening up. The one thing that I think I am noticing watching it more is that it feels like it's a revolving cast with Kanji being the focal point, which, hey, I'm not going to complain about that. But I feel that we could do with a couple of other main characters, if you will. Lizzie seems to be coming,
like the model when I first started going to watch Rev Pro in 2022, where the role of Kanji was being played by Alex Windsor, Sky Smithson, Danny Luna, and Kanji herself. They were kind of like the four regular women.
Yeah.
And then the other cast of women came in and had little mini programs or just came in for matches. Last year, it feels like it really blossomed. This year, I do feel like it is. It's kind of had to take a little bit of a backward step. Maybe that's because of the fact that some things that where they've wanted to do them, just things haven't lined up. I feel like
I get that.
Medusa complex probably was meant to happen at some other point as to when it did.
Yeah,
you just get that vibe. Pretty Psycho, like Amira and Zoe Lucas, there was quite a bit of energy put into that, and then it kind of has petered away because I imagine because of Zoe being so in demand with American dates and things like that. Obviously, they couldn't foresee what would happen with Alex Windsor this year, so
yeah,
I'm interested to see where it goes next, to see how they try and get the balance back to what it was last year. I really liked it last year, where most shows had these two women's matches on. But I am also a believer in you don't just book matches to tick boxes and to balance ratios. You book the best possible matches you can book, and you have the best possible stories you can tell with who is available to you. And obviously, one part of that is you can't tell a story in a single show. So if you want to have stories, you've got to be able to book the same people over a series of shows for it to have the legs and the air to breathe. So I'm curious to see where it goes next.
I'm really hoping that Emerson can fit in that model, because I think she's been a breath of fresh air to Rev Pro. Mills and Manders, we didn't have this on our predictions list, but I know that
it was a little late. kind of
Yeah.
bonus, right?
Yeah, I mean, what a bonus match to add as well. Oh, by the way, here's also two of the hardest hitters in the promotion going against
Like,
each other.
literally,
Like,
this time last week, we were saying, don't see another match that
Yeah.
really would improve the card. Don't see a match which, you know, a story that needs to be paid off right now. It didn't really occur to us that they could just say, here you go,
yeah.
have these two.
Yeah. Here's your lovely dinner. Would you
My
like
match
another
of the
lovely
night.
dinner? It was a very close contender for me. Very close contender. It was everything that it needed to be. I thought Mills always does look it, but he came out again looking like a star.
Yeah.
I loved how hard hitting it was. I know that you, when we spoke at the beginning, I picked Manders to win. You picked Mills to win. So I feel like you've got the prediction here as well, Dave. So yeah, I just, it was everything I wanted. There's not too much I can add other than I'm gonna go back and watch this one. I think this one could break my top 10 of the year.
Do you know how long it was?
13 minutes. Well, 12 minutes 59 seconds.
Yeah, nuts, right?
Yeah.
Because they crammed a lot into those 13 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd given it a slightly impossible task because I was always going to compare this to Trent Seven versus Conor Mills from February last year. And that's genuinely one of my favourite Rev Pro matches of all time. One of my favourite, in fact, let's take out the word Rev Pro. That's genuinely one of my favourite wrestling matches of all time.
Yeah.
And one thing that match had that this match didn't was an extra sort of 6-7 minutes for Mills to really break Trent down to the point where Trent could barely stand. I wanted that. I wanted Mills to really break Manders down. But one, this match couldn't go 18, 19 minutes. It's a different audience. It's a different event. The 229, you can have longer matches than you can have at your call.
Yeah.
Like, it's the opposite of how, like, the WWE system always worked, where you'd have longer matches on the big shows than on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
Where actually in Rev Pro often it's the other way around.
Yeah.
But also, Manders had to be able to come back out for the Rumble, and he had a very important role in the Rumble where he was in it for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So I was never going to get exactly what I wanted, but I got as close to it as was possible given the circumstances around it. I absolutely adored it. It's gone straight into my top 10 matches of the year. It's ridiculous because every Manders match he's had this year has been in the top 10. And at the start of the year when he was wrestling Ike Navarro and him and Thomas Shire were against Leon Slater and Michael Oku, the bar to get into the top 10 was much lower than it is now, halfway through the year. But he still manages to get in there each and every time. His match with Oku and his two matches with Leon Slater are still in the top 10 alongside this one. So Manders is in 40% of the top 10 Rev Pro matches of the year for me.
Crazy.
It just says everything. Mills wrestling in singles matches is still my favourite. I love the Jay Joshua tag team, I really do. But I love Conor Mills singles more than I love him and Jay Joshua as a tag team, simply because when he can wrestle like this and he can consistently, there's nothing better for me. Like him and Ridgeway just wrestle my style of wrestling to a T, and they do it better than anybody else. So I absolutely loved this. The match that you said this was a close second for, was that the next match?
It was.
Loads. I for the first time ever, I posted my top 10. Normally, I just get positive comments, and I haven't got any negative comments, but I've definitely had a few people slide into the old DM saying, where's the tag team match? Where's CPF versus Young Guns? And I'm like, I really enjoyed it. I just didn't quite make my top 10.
Yeah.
Maybe that's match number 11 or match number 12. But there was definitely a like, whoa, that was my match of the night. Why isn't it in your list? Which I like, because that goes to show the standard, right?
It does. And look, we were discussing this when we were there as well. There's some matches that maybe focus more on being there. So we were saying that there was, I think it was this match, wasn't it? There was maybe a couple of near falls where we're like, this felt like it was a bit more than like some bits where we're like, right, this probably could have been an ending here. And the reaction from the crowd said, but it's working, right? And
yeah, it's funny. I was having a conversation through Instagram today with a young wrestler who was there yesterday, and he said that this was his match of the night. And I said, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I said, and I gave a couple of little criticisms of just, I said, for me, the final few spots didn't escalate. They were in the wrong order. Mm-hmm. For me, the package pile drive onto the chairs was the most savage thing of everything they did. So for me, that should have been the finish.
Yeah, I would agree.
And Danny Black kicking out of that was one of those moments where for a lot of people in the crowd, they're like, oh my God. And for me, it was a bit like, not sure about that.
Yeah.
And that took me out of it. The Meteora onto the thumbtacks, whilst it's a really cool visual, and I'm sure it hurts like hell, isn't gonna end your career or break your neck or put you in hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the package pile driver legitimately could. So for me, it would just be a case of swapping the things around a little bit so that the thumbtacks came before the package pile driver.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't bother doing the Doomsday device and the submission finish. Just do the package pile driver finish. Really small things, but things that my overthinking ADHD brain is processing as I'm watching. And I don't like that. I don't want to be doing that. And I can't help it, but I want to just be lost in it. And for me, my favourite matches allow me to do that. But this lad came back really, really well with it. And he was like, yeah, I completely understand that. He said, but in terms of the modern, how did he phrase it? Like, in terms of modern wrestling, it escalated really well. It was all timed perfectly and the crowd reacted like incredibly for it all. And I was like, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And probably the difference there is I'm a bit more of an old school wrestling fan than a modern wrestling fan. And that's just simply my tastes.
Yeah, and that's all valid.
You know,
yeah.
So the key thing is, am I glad the match was on the card? 100%. Did I thoroughly enjoy it? Yes. Would I love to see a match like that again in Rev Pro? Yes. Do I want to see more Young Guns matches? Yeah. Do I want to see more CPF matches? Yes. Am I gutted CPF didn't win the titles? Yes. Even though in my head, I think Young Guns should still be champions, my heart tells me CPF, I wanted them to win. So they got me in all the ways they should have done.
Yeah. And it's really funny because you predicted a Young Guns retention. I predicted a CPF win. But we probably got what we both wanted as well. No disrespect to the lads.
Yeah, this is it.
I want that Young Guns reign to continue.
I do too. I love the idea of CPF tag champions. I'm a big fan of delayed gratification, and I don't like belts jumping around too much. I still think Luke Jacobs should be undisputed British heavyweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the whole kind of who should win the Rumble, who would be a fresh match for Oku, there's a part of me, it's like, well, if it was still Jacobs, we probably wouldn't be needing to think like this, because there's loads of things Jacobs could be doing as champion. The idea that he had that huge run to get the belt last year, and then the only successful championship matches we had were him against Rambo in Germany and him against...
Oh, God, I forgot about, yeah.
In Doncaster, and it's like, oh, I don't really feel like I got the payoff to what I wanted
No,
there.
it was a bit of a lame duck of a run, wasn't it?
It was, mate. It was, and maybe there are other external factors. Got no idea there, and
Yeah,
maybe maybe Jacobs' time's going to come back round again. But I don't want that to happen with his tag title run.
yeah,
So
I'm with you on.
let's,
Yeah,
you can't. We can all look at hindsight with 2020 vision. So let's just try and make sure that anything that you look back on and think maybe that was ended too quickly, just from the same mistakes aren't repeated again.
yeah, exactly. By the way, talk about deferred gratification. I'm going to refer to you as Tantric Dave from now on. You didn't pick up on that, did you?
Say it again.
I said you mentioned deferred gratification. I'm going to refer to you as Tantric Dave from now on.
I didn't hear the tantric.
Yeah.
Tantric. Oh, good lord! Can you imagine?
Yeah. I'd rather not.
Can you imagine the headlines? Bedfordshire teacher.
Yeah.
Bedfordshire teacher, Tantric Dave. Good lord.
I agree with you on all the parts there about the run. Look, the other bits I wanted to add as well is I thought the way the lads all present themselves. They didn't come out doing the normal jeans and t-shirt things like most wrestlers do.
Yeah.
I love the switch up in CPF's gear. In fact, I would like them to keep that going forward as their main gear. I thought that looked so much better than the Slipknot boiler suits that have been coming out in. And I'm hoping, as I said to you, I'm hoping that the switch up in colour means that that's what we're getting. Amazing Red and the SAT versus CPF. Also,
I loved I Want to Be Adored for
yeah,
for Jacobs and Ethan Allen.
I loved it. I loved everything about their look. They had the classic Adidas tracksuit on, the whole lot. Ethan Allen has achieved something that I fear. I thought Luke Jacobs would never be beaten. We spoke about it. I could say Jacobs is just my favorite in terms of what I like. Ethan Allen is everything Luke Jacobs does, and is just much more of a prick on top of it. He has, I don't know what it is about that lad. He just has this ability to turn whatever Luke Jacobs does and just 11. I felt yesterday watching it that I was watching one of the best tag title runs I've ever watched, in terms of the big matches, how important it feels. These lads feel important.
That's what it should be, right?
They carry themselves.
The young guns should have those belts for at least another 12 months, and at the end of it, we should be talking about, was that the best tag run ever?
Yeah. No,
how good they are.
I was literally going, where does this team fit in terms of, when I talk about my all-time favorite tag teams, usually when people do that, they're talking about the well-known established teams. I'm going, Young Guns break that top 5 for me, and it's not even genuinely in terms of the style of wrestling I like, how they've made me feel with it, all of that. I don't think there's many fewer into promotional matches I want more than Young Guns versus FTR, because I think it would be fucking insane. And
Young Guns versus Grizzled Young Vets as well.
Yeah, it'd be great.
There's a lot of history involved with that as well, from when Luke and Ethan were young and coming up. Just feels really tasty. That.
Yeah, I agree.
Tell you what, another one that I would really like that you think, oh, we haven't actually had that before, is I'd really love to see Young Guns versus Greedy Souls.
Yeah, that would be good.
Some people that's like an odd dynamic, but Young Guns can switch it from face to heel on a dime.
Yeah, they really can.
Luke Jacobs has this brilliant ability to piss you off and then make you smile and laugh within seconds.
Yeah.
And Ethan Allen is there is a really lovable underdog babyface story behind everything he does because of the real life history.
Yeah.
You just have to lean on that ever so slightly.
Yeah. And you know what? I was thinking that yesterday when I saw him posed up on there with a belt. And if there's anyone that probably doesn't want this title reign to end, it'll be
Oh
Ethan
god,
Allen,
yeah.
right?
I
Because
waited so bloody long for it.
Luke has had, I'm not saying that this isn't a big moment for him, but Luke has had those big moments in the Red Pro ring at York Hall. He's had the Revolution Rumble win. I knew it was Copper Box. He won the big title on the Copper Box on a stacked card with all those other wrestlers on. He was the man standing tall at the end of that. Ethan getting his big moment at York Hall there was just, yeah, it was perfect. Conscious of the time, Dave. So look, shall we do some quick thoughts on Oku and Cooper? I just want to say that for this one, for me, I thought it was a brilliant way of utilizing lots of different things from the past. Really,
Yes.
we spoke a lot about TK and music and how nothing is ever like coincidence, and Keep It 100 into Sunshine Machine into Ain't No Sunshine, I thought was amazing.
Flawless.
And it really
absolutely flawless
solidified this descent into heeldom. You called it with the grabbing the ropes and getting caught because no one else has had an Amira Blair outside to catch that. But I also
that's it, right? So it's not like suddenly Ref Harv's smarter than he was for every other time TK did it. It's because Amira's literally there telling Harv he's doing it. Like it's just it's so logical.
Yeah. I loved as well that there was also little bits of things I've never seen before. Every time TK got the pin and it looked like he could get the win, Amira a couple of times dived up. I don't recall seeing that happen as much as I did in this match. I
can't either. She was getting involved. She didn't get involved. That's not right. She was on the verge of getting involved way more than normal.
Yes.
There was a moment when TK had Oku, and Oku was reaching out, and she was reaching her arms through the ropes for him, whereas normally she would just have her hands this side of the ropes.
Yeah.
And I found it really, really interesting that when Oku won and got booed, she had not a smirk on her face, that's not the right phrase, but she wasn't being phased by it. She was taking it in and being like, oh, okay, this is how you were going to react. Okay, I can live with this. Like, any reaction's a good reaction. We can't please everybody. It wasn't like, it wasn't like a shocked thing. She wasn't upset by it. She just wasn't phased by it. And she's fascinating to watch. Absolutely fascinating to watch. And the whole, I don't think we'll possibly ever see, that sounds really hyperbolic, but I don't think we'll ever see it. I'm watching the Dark Side of the Ring with my missus. She loves the documentary. So she was like, oh, let's watch these together. We just watched the Randy Savage Miss Elizabeth one.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm like, this is crazy that this was such a like fresh and different way of presenting wrestling with this real life ballet. And you're like, but like 40 years later, we're doing it again. Obviously on a different scale, but it's still completely different to anything else in wrestling. And when it comes to an end, whenever it does, I don't see it being repeated, not on the same level or as successfully for so long, because they're both just so perfect at what they do, and it all comes so naturally to them. It's just
look,
fascinating to watch.
I'll be the first
as was TK Cooper and everything he did.
Yeah, when Amira started accompanying Michael out, and I was just like, she's not going to be here for long. Like, I just didn't see it adding anything. Boy, how wrong was I? Like, what eventually was going to be a couple of shows in, I'm not going to be with him as much now. And it's turned into, like, that's because of how great she is, how great of an actor, how well they bounce off of each other, all of that. I thought TK played his part really well. The stuff he was busting out was, it was just, there felt
was
like
unbelievable, some of the moves he did. But that was also so completely in character, wasn't it? Because it's like, just a tag guy, am I? Like, you don't think I can actually do all the things that everybody else can do? Like, oh,
Mhm.
you get you mark out for people that can do a bit of technical wrestling. I'm fine, I'll do a bit of technical wrestling. Oh, people, Joe Lando and Danny Black can fly all around the ring. I can
Yeah.
fucking do that too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was, I said it to you, didn't I? It was John Cena versus The Rock.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, the other side of it is John Cena versus CM Punk, and it's like TK had The Rock on one shoulder and CM Punk on the other shoulder. It's like, which one's he going to listen to?
Mhm.
TK's just like unbelievably good at everything.
Yeah. I
But
also
it seems so bizarre that it's taken so long for so many people. It's like Ridgeway, like, it's taken so long for so many people to see it. Fascinated by what goes on next with him and Mambo as well.
yeah, I mean, look, I'm just saying it. I've been calling it since this time last year. This is why I wanted TK to walk away. And you know what I also loved? I loved that we got the mirroring of that. Right? You had last year, Copper Box, TK walked away and he came back. Last night he just walked away. And again, not yeah. Then I was gonna say then we got.
He said to my little girl at the end of the show, he was like, you know, sometimes people fall out. Sometimes people just, you know, need a bit of space. Sometimes they need to talk, and, you know, we'll talk. We'll get it all off our chest, and we'll sort it all out. It'll be okay. I just need Chuck to realize that he's in the wrong. It was like,
yeah, interesting. The guy is always working, and I love that. Absolutely love it.
Mate.
I also appreciate the side eye that I was getting from Phoebe the Mark, because I was daring to support Young Guns, daring to, and the side eye that I got.
She was so funny, just judging everybody. She judged Spike for not supporting Kanji enough because he wasn't chanting. He's like, I like Kanji. Well, you're not singing. She's a funny little thing.
Oh, she is. She's great.
Cleaned
Right.
me up at the merch table, she did.
Oh, I bet she did. I bet she did, mate. Main event time. Revolution Rumble. So, gonna throw a few bits out there.
Where do we begin with this?
Did you call Sha Samuels winning this at any point?
Not at all.
So
never did I think. So my first thought was Leon Slater would win.
Yeah.
I was then completely shocked when I found out he wasn't entering it.
Mm-hmm.
I then couldn't work out who it would be. But
yeah.
if I had to put my money on someone, I was going to say RKJ, even though I thought it would be unpopular.
Mm-hmm.
Then my third choice would have been Zazaya, even though I knew that's potentially tricky with his uncertain future. And also, I feel like for a big main event story of a big show, he would show his limitations with the fact that he can't speak a lot of English.
Mm-hmm.
And you do need to talk people a little bit into selling seats, which Sha and Oku will do beautifully. So they were my first three. Then it's like, okay, out of the box, Mills, even though I was like, the Mills storyline is so good. I can't wait for them to come back to Mills versus Oku. But it's a long way from where Mills was last year when he wrestled Ethan Allen in quite a short match at the start of the show to him being the main event this year.
Mm-hmm.
I even thought I had Robbie X ahead of Sha Samuels. And I wasn't expecting Robbie to be in it, but when he came out, I was like, he's increased the value of his name recently.
Yeah.
Is this something they should capitalize on?
Mm-hmm.
And him versus Oku is still something that a lot of people have never seen. Because although they've done it a couple of times, it's always been in small venues.
Yeah.
So Sha, no, I never had Sha down for it. Even though I think it's the best story they can tell. With the two best storytellers telling it.
So when Shah did the 229 speech of "I'm not retiring until I've won the title," I was like, this is interesting because I think we've said this in the modern Rev Pro landscape. Respectfully, is Shah currently at that stage of people who we'd say probably at the stage we'd expect to see with the title first. Okay, so another Luke Jacobs run, Connor Mills, Zazaya, RKJ. Has he been positioned at that level? No, he hasn't. Like we've said for a while, up until that David Francisco match, in fact, there didn't seem to be a lot of forward direction for Shah, and then that seems to have kick-started. And look, I'm
Look
really
at how
happy.
hard Shah and Spike Trevay worked to get their program talked about. They were cutting promos on each other,
Yeah.
like off their own bat a lot, and their blow-off match was in St. Neots.
Yeah, but
that's quite telling.
Yeah, and look, the guy's putting a lot of work in, and for the guy himself as well. You know what, right? I'm so happy for him, right, to get this moment. And like you, I was going through the who do I think. So I think I considered Shah that night for maybe all of a couple of minutes and go, but surely that's not the route they're going to go down with it, right? Because like you said, you've got the more marquee names. That's how I'll say it. The more marquee names. And Leon Slater felt like the one. So we were discussing this. Well, can you have Liam Slater win it and then hand over the prize? Because
mate, we'd be having a very different conversation if Liam Slater had won and given the prize to Leon, because that would have not sat well with me at all.
Yeah, so and when we were in there, so you obviously had Liam leave with the knee, and there was a lot of people looking very worried. And we both, I think, separately picked up on the fact that at no stage did Francesca say Liam Slater is eliminated, right? That was telling, because to me, I was like, well, he's still fair game. And there was a lady sitting next to me. We were chatting throughout the night, and she said to me, no, he's done. Like, basically, I think she was like to me at one point, I think you're reading too much into it. Like, I think he's injured. Like, he's done. I was like, and
that's what we do, man.
Yeah. And I was like, until
sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
I said they have not mentioned that he's injured. I went, and then we got down to like, so one of the things that we said throughout the night, and I hope they saw it for next year, but we didn't know which number was which because there was nothing on the screen telling us.
It really bothered me more than it should have done.
I think
I like just knowing, are we on 26 or are we on 27?
Yeah, exactly. I want to know what's coming next.
You knew what number we were on because 3, 2, 1, 27, music.
Yes.
And this year it was 3, 2, 1, music.
Yeah, and so that took away from it a little bit because you didn't know, have I got anyone else? Have I not got anyone else? And that for me was also one of the things with the gauntlet match. Like, when do you know you've reached the limit? I want to know when I've reached that so I know what I'm working with. So when it became very apparent that we got to our final 4, I turned to you straight away, didn't I? And said, Shah's winning this, and Liam Slater is coming in, and he's going to chuck Shah over the top, right? So you get that, because again, in the nicest way, the marquee names, I was like, I don't like how they're going about it, but maybe the reason they're doing it is because everything they're planned is on Leon winning it, but for whatever reason, he couldn't be there. So this is how they're going to do it. And it's not ideal, but that's how they'll do it. And I was saying this to the lady beside me as well. And then at the end, when Shah was celebrating, and she straight away she went, look over there. And we saw Liam running in. And we're like, it's happening, it's happening. And then he didn't. He got chucked over the top. It was like, okay. Like, it took me... I think I've clocked on to Shah being the winner at the final 4 stage, but it didn't.
I didn't think Shah was going to win it when. Who were the final 3?
So it was him. Oh God, who was it?
him, Jay, Josh. Well, if we
It was-
ignore Liam,
Jay was 3. Jay was
Jay
3.
was in the final 3.
Because
So there was a
Mills,
moment where there was Jay, Joshua, and Joshua, Jay, Joshua, and Shaw. I think were the last 2
yeah,
before Liam got in.
yeah,
And I
must have
remember
been,
thinking, well, surely neither of these guys are going to win it.
yeah.
So it has to be Liam. So even then, I was banking on Liam Slater coming in because I was so convinced Shaw wouldn't win. Do you think Shaw Samuels is going to beat Michael Oakley at the anniversary show?
No, I don't.
Do you even think it's going to be at the anniversary show?
So I have 2 scenarios which I've ran in my brain. One scenario is Shaw Samuels is seeing all of the stuff going on with RKJ and was like, before any of this, I want my shot first. And maybe calls like some kind of truce with RKJ. Let me get my moment first. Okay? And
so do you think that potentially would be Summer Sizzler?
Summer Sizzler. Or the other thing, like, I've got another 2 scenarios. The other scenario is Michael Oku versus Shaw Samuels night 1. The match doesn't need to main event. It probably should, but if
in
one
your
of,
head, Mercedes headlines night 1, right?
yeah, but so if you have that big match that can headline. Could you headline night 2 with a tag team match and not have the undisputed title? And then what you could do, night 1, you could have Shaw beat Oku. Night 2, you could have RKJ's attention turn straight away from Oku. It goes on to Shaw. And Shaw says he's going to retire. Shaw says he's going to retire when he loses the title. Okay? You have RKJ beat him. And you do it. Yeah, but that's it, right? You have that heartbreaking moment, but you do it on a massive stage as well.
So right now, obviously, we're doing this 24 hours. It's not even 24 hours since Shaw won it. My feeling right now is Shaw and Oku will headline the anniversary show. They will do an incredible job of building it and doing all these video packages to make it Shaw's one last shot, and we get the massive Michael Oku heel turn at the anniversary show.
Now, before we continue, Dave, I have one question. Do you want me to pause the recording so you can go and buy your ticket? Because I feel like we've still got a decent amount of chat here. So I'm gonna click pause. I'm gonna click pause, my friend, and this isn't getting edited out. I'm pausing now. Right, Dave, we're back. So tickets secured there for you, my friend.
Ticket acquired.
Wonderful news. So in terms of, I'll ask you the same question back then about Shaw, because my memory is that bad I can't remember exactly where we got to, even in those brief 7 minutes. So do you see him challenging for the title at the anniversary show, and do you see it being the main event?
I do, and I feel like the big shocking thing from the anniversary show this year won't be who they have in the main event. I feel like they can put on a really high caliber show with loads of big names for the casual fans in other matches. Shaw and Oku, I feel like, is going to be really more for the hardcore fans, the committed fans. And I also think that they can, if they do enough of the promotion of this, they do the spine buster videos that they do. They do some sit downs with Dave Bradshaw, stuff like that. If I've bought a ticket, I've never gone to Rev Pro before. I think back to when I went to High Stakes 2022, and I bought tickets because it was Ospreay versus Oku.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started watching things like, well, okay, well, if I'm going to go to this, let's watch some YouTube videos. And I learned about the Shota Umino and Yota Tsuji kind of conflict that was happening at the time through backstage videos with Gideon Gray. And I learned about Aussie Open and Sunshine Machine, because Sunshine Machine had a cool little video package explaining how they were kind of being pigeonholed as this just
Hmm.
fun guys who weren't serious about professional wrestling enough to actually be champions. If you then ramp that up to, instead of it being a 2 or 3 minute video, it's a 15-minute sit down with Dave Bradshaw, and Sha Samuels is doing the best work of his life, telling people why this is such an important match, I think people will be up for it.
Yeah.
And then it will break people's hearts when Oku and Amira just turn full blown heel on Sha.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we don't get a new champion, and it's all got a bit John Cena with Michael Oku, and it's all been a bit like, if Cena wins, we riot, anyone but Cena. And instead, what we've got is the current version of John Cena, which
Yeah.
I think is bloody brilliant. So a
Yeah.
change is a rest is as good as a change. Is that the phrase I'm looking for? Or a change is as good as
Change is good as the rest.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
A change is as good as a rest. So if we're not going to have a new champion, let's just change up the current champion.
Yeah, I think that would be a way that I think you could have Michael come out of it and really freshen him up. And I think they know that's needed. Like, they know that they can't just continue. And that will be part of the plan, right? And it's just when that plan is going to be executed. I thought that might happen with Nino. But no, I think it's going to come at some point. Someone said to me, they were like, do you really reckon he could be a heel? And I was like, yes. Yes, I
100%.
do. 100%. I think he'll be the
Half
ultimate.
the time he works like a heel now.
Yeah, he'll be the
Just a
ultimate.
very, very subtle,
Yeah,
clever, three-dimensional heel.
I can't wait till they're just overtly dickheads. Like, that's going to be great.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like Andy Crawford knows professional wrestling like back his
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
He knows that you can't just be a forever babyface.
Exactly. You know what? Look, I'm just going to throw something out there now. I fucking hated the Eugene stuff. I'm just going to get my point out there now. Look, I feel that Eugene back in 2004 when I was watching was considered a really poor taste gimmick.
I hated it then when I was 17.
And look, I was 20 at the time, and it wasn't even considered. I didn't even dislike it because, and a lot of people didn't dislike it because it was like oh, what's this gimmick, right?
Stupid,
yeah, but a lot of people,
it was offensive.
It was offensive then, and it plays up to a lot of stereotypes about what people think learning disabilities are, and we live in a world where in the last 20 years we have normalized people's understandings of what different learning disabilities. I might be saying the wrong thing, saying learning disabilities. So if I am, I apologize. But
well, it's funny because my daughter didn't get the reference to him.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know who he was. Didn't know anything about him. And she leant over to me and was like, "Who's he? What's this about?" And I was like, I'm not really going to explain it. But I couldn't turn to her and say, "Oh, he's someone with learning difficulties," because
that's what I was like,
weird thing. But also, it's like both her brother and her sister have got learning difficulties. I've got 2 autistic children. Eugene ain't nothing like my children.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult because a lot of the crowd did enjoy it. I feel a bit sorry for the guy who plays Eugene because if he didn't choose this character, Vince McMahon did, and he ain't going on the indies 20 years later making money by wrestling as his real name in black trunks doing, headlocks and suplexes. He's only going to make money by the nostalgia of his old character. And do we want to, effectively blacklist the fella because his gimmick doesn't wash in 2025?
Look, apart
Sounds
from
harsh, but actually, yeah, you probably are just saying, mate, you should probably be able to see yourself that it's time to give this up.
Yeah, and look, I get completely that at the end of the day he's got to put food on the table, right? So he makes his choice. He's got to do what he does. I also didn't like the part of it was what he was doing was Hogan stuff, right? Because
I don't
that
like anything Hogan related, mate. I'll be completely honest. I didn't like
that
the MJF stuff last year at Sizzler.
that was
It
it,
just
right?
doesn't,
Like the
especially because that was with Oku, and it's like, hold on,
yeah,
you're
and
impersonating a racist
if
wrestling against a black man.
if we're gonna do any point of it being like, okay, are we more happy? It was in that scenario probably more so because I imagine that doesn't happen without Michael Oku agreeing to it, and
Yeah,
ultimately the person who's doing it is a heel. This was supposed to be beloved babyface, doing it for a pop. And look, I'm just gonna put out there as well. I'm not saying anything negative necessarily about Rev Pro directly here in the sense of, oh, like they should they have probably known better? Yes, I do think they should have known better. Um, do I think they were going for anything more malicious than a bit of a nostalgia pop? No, I don't. I think this was it. It was like oh, people remember this character. I just think they thought it might have gone down better than it did, and no, it's just not.
but to be
not my
fair,
yeah.
it's funny because I mean, I don't keep up on the social media as much as you do, so I don't know how people have reacted online, and I'm guessing that's where the negativity's come from.
Yeah.
But in your call yesterday, I felt quite a lot of positivity from people.
Yes, yeah, and I'll add that as well because a
But
lot of
then
people
is
were
that
like,
just a case of cheering is always going to be louder than the quiet judgment that people are making?
yeah, and that's it, right? Like the conversation I'm seeing, and it's been lots of different people as well. People who I've spoken to online a fair bit, people who I know in person, people I've never spoken to and seen opinions of, and I think generally the consensus that I've read and interacted with, really tried to understand, has been that there are a lot of people who are on the spectrum who feel like they've had enough challenges without what they deal with on a daily basis to be put into a one size fits all infantilized denigrated kind of character that is just no, this is what everyone's like. And I can understand that point of view. It's certainly much more complex than I can relate myself to it, and that I would even dare try to do that. I can certainly understand it, and I think if 20-year-old me, who back in 2004 lived in a world that was definitely becoming a lot more liberal, like where we are now, certainly much more open to these things and understanding. But even back then, if me being 20, who was probably only a few years away from using the word "that's gay" when you didn't like something, and that just being normal parlance, going, "This is offensive," that tells you a bit about the time we're living in. But
that's all very fair, mate. I have 2 disabled children. I've got 2 autistic children. I didn't take personal offence on my children's behalf. It didn't upset me, even though I have autistic children. But I completely understand and respect the fact that it has upset other people who are in a similar position or are indeed themselves autistic. And I think it's probably just one of those ones where they have made a decision. I would like to think with completely good intentions, because
oh, I don't doubt that at all.
The guys that run Rev Pro, who are absolutely lovely fellas, this would literally be this will get a nice nostalgia pop, and probably just haven't realised that this discourse would come from it.
I 100% agree with you that that's where I think this was going.
One thing I did love was his whole cameo was with Gideon Grey, and one of my biggest pops of the night was getting to see Gideon Grey in Your Call again, especially as I didn't get to see him and Dan McGee at Summer Sizzler last year. Which still pains me. I honestly, I don't care that I didn't get to see Michael Oku versus MJF at all. That's a shame. You see some, you miss some. I would have liked to have been there for it. I care that I missed Dan McGee versus Gideon Grey. So this was a little make good. My daughter absolutely, like, her eyes lit up because Gideon is still one of her favourites. He made her
Oh,
famous, don't you know? When she went to her first ever show and him and Lucian bullied her. I thought it was very, very special for him. I thought it was excellent. I didn't get why he was wearing a Bullet Club shirt until, this is just
yeah.
because I've got terrible eyesight. But today, when I was editing a photo, I realised he'd got tape over it, and it said Bullet Club, more like Bad Club, which is
Yeah.
absolutely top level patter because that is such a lame joke, and I love it. Proper
did-
dad joke from a fellow dad. I love the Gideon Gray. Taylor James was one that I got a real sense of pride when he came out because we've seen him a couple of times down in Southampton, and I feel like every time he's been pulled in to do a shift, he's done a real shift. So that was a nice one.
That was one that I found quite unexpected, actually. And it was funny because only the other day I saw that he was out in France. And I was like, it's interesting. We've not seen this guy in a while. And then pops up.
He often goes to France with CPF, right?
Yeah, I feel that when I saw him last time, this time, he worked a very different style to what I remember last time.
I didn't get that. I thought it was the similar style. He's very he's a proper kind of Osprey super athlete, which he does not look like he would be.
That's what I think it might be, because I felt this time he seemed much more power move focused. Whereas last time I thought he was a lot more athletic.
And it's very slick what he does. Everything is very polished.
Yeah.
I
just felt the first time I saw him, I expected him to be a real big bruiser power move guy. And that's why it stuck in my head. And that's what I got last night as well. But yeah, lovely to see him in there. I thought that was a nice little addition into the match.
Robert Dreisker was a cool surprise.
I like that as well, yeah. I've wanted him back for a while.
Yep, and I'm sure his was a really logical one, right? Because I'm sure he was working somewhere, maybe for North, or someone like that. I'm sure him and his tag partner in WXW, Gojira, I'm sure they were wrestling somewhere in the UK. So that's just that. They were the levels of surprises I was expecting.
Yeah, we said that, didn't we? Yeah.
A big name out of nowhere because, well, one, it was nearly a sellout, so they didn't need a big surprise to sell extra seats. If it's a surprise, it's not going to sell extra seats because no one knows it's going to happen.
Exactly, yeah, that's it, right?
And do I feel like everybody got their value for money from yesterday's show, even though there wasn't a big name international wrestler on it? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You got Manders and Mills beating the shit out of each other. You got a title change. You got Emerson and Kanji showcasing the best women's wrestling in the country. Again, hate that, but best women's wrestling, but two of the best women wrestlers in the country. You had ladders, tables, thumbtacks, blood in the street fight.
Yeah.
You had all the drama, the pomp, the majesty of TK and Oku. Then the Rumble itself is just tons of fun, loads of stories in it.
Yeah.
We talked about how much tag stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And it was only afterwards that I remembered that Andy in the Rev Pro Wrapped from last week said that there's going to be a tag league this autumn, he said this year, upcoming. I wonder if that's coming sooner rather than later, and if the final of the tag league is going to be the anniversary show.
I think so as well, mate. I think there's certainly something coming there. We were talking about, like we said, we were kind of we'd worked out that True and Lacey were going to be in, right? We say worked out, but certainly something in the venue that gave it away to us that they would be there. And I think it was quite interesting that we were like, oh, Kira and Lacey will be next. It was David Francisco. And then it was Kira and Lacey. Building it all up. You had Jay and Mills in there at the same time. Then
I loved Manders and Zazaya as a tag team.
Manders and Zazaya as a tag team, but then you also had you had obviously the stuff going on with Manders and Luke. You had stuff going on with Jay and with Zazaya. You then got the stuff going on with Luke and Manders. Like,
Please
they're
tell me we're going
revisiting.
to get lots of Trent Seven in Rev Pro again, because
Mm-hmm.
that man knows how to maximize his minutes. Because he showed me matches yesterday that I want to see.
Oh, mate, just before
Do you
you
know what I
go,
mean? Like every person he had an interaction with, I'm like, oh, I want to see that singles match. Oh, I want to see that singles match. Like I know that he even at this stage of his career, he's so in demand. He's like he seems to be wrestling in Canada a lot and in the
yeah,
States. So
I need to tell you
I'm
something.
sure it's difficult to tie down and keep to a Rev Pro schedule, but I'd love 12 shows in a row from Trent like we had
Some
a few years ago.
something I saw at the merch table with him right at the end. Right, so I'm standing there and he's got 2 of his towels left, and he said, "I've got 2 left. Who wants one?" And this woman turned around to him and went, "She's braver than I was." She went, "How much?" And he said, £20. And she just stepped back. Right, more balls than I do, because I would have bought it there and then,
I
because
think that's really reasonable. They're
look,
really high quality.
they are, but I've said this about when I bought the Luke Jacobs one. I was like, it is only a towel at the end of the day as well. So and I don't, so I get it, right. It's a little hand towel with a logo on. And he turned round to her, right. She clearly had no intention of buying one. He went, "Not only will I give you the towel," he said, "I will sign it, and I will take a picture with you." And she paid the £20.
Fair play to her.
He
She
got
haggled Trent
yeah.
7.
He got that sale out of her by taking the picture that he probably would have taken anyway, but it's still
One
it's like,
of my favourite t-shirts is a Trent 7 t-shirt. I wore it at school the other day because it was too hot and our head's lovely. And he was like, if you just want to wear shorts and t-shirt today, we haven't got aircon in the building. Just wear shorts and t-shirt instead of sweating in your suit trousers and your shirt and tie. So I wore my Trent 7 t-shirt because it's just plain black, little Trent 7 logo.
yeah.
And I bought his because it was the end of a 229 show. And he was like, I've literally got one shirt left. It's extra large. And he looked at me and he was like, it would look good on you. And I was like, yeah, go on then, mate. Go on. I haven't got a Trent 7 shirt. I'll have that. And then the thing that I loved about it was he'd secured the sale. He'd like, I was committed to it.
You were
and
buying.
As he was giving it to me, he said, I just call it a tenner. I'm like, dude, you're like working so hard to sell the shirts, and I'm ready to give you a 20 quid here, but okay, thank you very much. So yes, cheapest merch shirt I've ever got, my Trent 7.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I love the fella. I think he's an absolute gentleman.
Yeah, I think they missed a trick by not having him come out at 7. Missed the trick.
They did it in 2022. I was so convinced it was going to happen, but what I did like was I was so convinced it was going to happen that when it was then Gideon, not only did I get the pop for Gideon, but it was an even bigger shock because I was so convinced it was Trent.
Yeah.
And then I got a nice little surprise of whatever number he did come out with.
Yeah. Other little bits I liked throughout, just for wrapping up here, was I enjoyed Chris Ridgway being a complete little dick to JJ Gale on the way past. Just punting JJ Gale, sat down and punting JJ Gale on the way back, all the way out, which that caused a bit of a brawl there. So imagine somewhere we're going to get Chris Ridgway versus JJ Gale. I love the fact that the amount of times it was teased that Dave Francisco would be the one to eliminate JJ Gale. It was JJ Gale inadvertently eliminated Dave Francisco.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. I really liked how Francisco was quite quick to be like, it's cool, it's not your fault. It was his fault.
Yeah.
The common enemy of Jay Joshua.
Yeah.
Peacekeeper.
Yeah.
Another heroic performance. And I tell you what, mate, I was thinking about this. Was I a little disappointed that there wasn't a kind of real surprise? You know, like a bit of an out of left field, a Eugene, but good.
Yeah.
Like, was I disappointed at that? No, I wasn't. I was on the verge of it, I was hoping for something that was just like, but I genuinely I couldn't think of one.
Yeah,
The
like I
only
just don't
thing
think.
that I could think of was Eddie Dennis, and even then, that's so controversial because it's like Eddie Dennis retired from RevPro. We did a whole big story about it, but he retired at the Rumble. Mills kicked him out. Maybe he'd come back, but I couldn't think of anybody. And the Gallus fellas from WWE, but then they've also got like there's a bit of a black mark against their names, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't think there was anyone. I mean, I think it's quite.
DeVecchio would have been the one. I think Mike DeVecchio or Igor Blong, where you're like,
yeah,
one more time before they go over to WWE. That would have been lovely. But in saying all of that, the first Rumble I went to had the surprise of Trent Seven. It had the surprise of Sha Samuels. It had Zack Sabre Jr. in it. It had Rampage Brown in it and Big Damo and like all these sorts of people where you're like, wow, this is so star-studded.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean this in no disrespect to anybody. But it also had Sean Jackson in it, and it had Chris Bronson was in it. There was quite a disparity between the big names, your Rev Pro names, and the people that were there to kind of make the numbers up.
Pad up the numbers, yeah.
I felt like yesterday was a couple of people there to make the numbers up, but in a positive way, like Robert Dreisker and Ender Kara.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're there to add to the 25 people that were there.
Yeah.
Everybody else is a regular in Rev Pro.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show how big the locker room is now. And David Francisco, the pop for David Francisco, and the genuine emotional reaction I had when his music started was like, oh yes, business has picked up now.
Yeah.
Big names coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's, Josh James's music hit and you're like, oh, interesting, what's going to happen here between him and Shah and Harry and people? And you're like,
yeah,
this wouldn't have happened 2 or 3 years ago. You might have got, okay, Robbie X and JJ Gower in the ring at the same time. I wonder if we're going to see them wrestle.
Yeah. I remember saying to you, because we'll talk about this, like, what could the big surprise be? And I said to you, what if Michael Oku comes out at number 30?
Yeah.
And then, literally, I think it was 2 later. Well, I think it made sense because you had...
Was he in it to stop Ricky from winning it?
That's kind of how I took it. He was in it to stop Ricky
from winning it. That's how I'm taking it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I'm picking up breadcrumbs that weren't there, or if that was the idea. Ricky had pissed him off earlier in the show, so he was just entering to take Ricky out of it.
So when in his music, I was like, shit, there we go, we've got another one. I would have liked to have... I would like to have seen...
This poor Dynamite Lee Dawson, still at the back of, locked in a York Hall toilet.
I would like to have seen Josh James have a bit more of an impactful run in the Rumble. I feel that went more to Jay Joshua, which obviously I'd expect Jay to get a good run. I thought
Josh James might have took a mighty leap off the top rope though when he got eliminated, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought he might have got a bit more of a run. So I'm interested to see what that does for him and Shah now, because obviously it adds an interesting dynamic into that story.
Oh god, yeah, that's interesting because Shah's now all eyes on the title and Oku and either Summer Sizzler, as you're thinking maybe, or the anniversary show. But that's gonna elevate Josh James, right? Because the Josh and Shah side quest, as it might now be, isn't going to go away, but Josh is having a side quest with the number 1 contenders to the heavyweight championship. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff. I thought Luke at 30, while it was a big name to come in at 30, Same. I was the same, and I felt like
You know the thing I have in my head. Do you know how I knew when there were only 4 people left?
I've got. I wonder if you're going to say the same thing as me.
WWE 2K series
Yeah,
screen,
in the corner.
like what a camera cut,
Yeah,
where it's like they all kind of circle on each other, and it was like,
Yeah.
this must be the final four.
that's
This is
exactly
their way
it.
of telling me. It wasn't cringe by any means,
They all were in the corner, and they all kind of just
but it
got
was
up and
very
started
clear.
circling.
There are 4
Yeah,
left. No one else is coming out.
yeah, that was exactly the moment I realised as well, mate. And I felt Luke went a bit quickly as well, so for a guy of his stature.
Who eliminated him?
Mate, I can't remember. I'm not good at remembering that stuff.
That's one thing that I think in the previous
do
years.
you know what? Actually, I wonder if it
when
tells me.
When a big name was eliminated, I always knew who eliminated them because you're like, oh, okay, the Go-Go versus Oku then.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me on Cage
JJ
Match.
Down Zack Sabre Jr. is going to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me on Cage
eliminated
Match.
RKJ, like they eliminated each other.
Yeah, Manders was eliminated by Luke.
Manders was eliminated by
Luke,
I
think. Yeah.
So who got Luke? Who got Mills? Who got JJ? Who got Robbie X?
Man, I can't remember. I'm going to need to go back and watch it again.
Yeah. Much of that is I'm overestimating. I don't know if I've just turned around my phone and doing it Danny. I don't know if I'm overestimating how much I remember from the first 2 Rumbles, or if it's just the fact that I've watched them a few times.
Yeah,
Or if
I
this
find
Rumble that some of the eliminations just didn't hit as heavy as previous ones did.
For me as well, it's
again, and I will watch it again.
The last bit then I want to kind of end on was the bit that I thought might have been the number 30 spot, and that was Chuck Mambo and TK Cooper.
You mean you want to end our podcast on the Revolution Rumble by talking about TK Cooper?
Yes.
And is that not just a testament to the work he has done this year?
Yes. Yeah,
like
exactly.
He has main charactered himself in the best possible way.
Yeah, he really has. I forget, was it one of the Bryant brothers he took out to get into the was it Nino? I can't remember. I remember someone coming out and he attacked obviously to get the spot. But I can't remember exactly who it was.
It was Leland Bryant.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Leland
was coming out to be the third Bryant. TK took him out. TK's run didn't last very long, did it?
No, it didn't.
It was a bit limp.
Yeah.
By design. And I liked that. I think you leant over to me at that side and was like, is TK just the nearly man?
Yeah.
Just can't quite get the job done.
Yeah. That's what it felt like.
He then went wild, didn't he, by basically just letting his anger out on everybody at ringside. So Owen Swain and Kurt Atlas and people like that, Kean Cameron, all got twatted with the ripcord headbutt or just diving headbutts. And then Mambo came out. And I really liked that because somebody messaged me earlier today and they were like, I've not been keeping up with Rev Pro as much. So I've just got a question. Why did Mambo look so shocked at TK when he came out? Are we suggesting that Mambo is unaware of what TK's been doing in his absence? And my take on it was, no, it's not that. It's that yesterday was the first time where TK really lost control.
He became much more unhinged, didn't he?
Everything up until this point, I would say TK Cooper has not had a heel turn.
He was cool, calm, and collected.
A justified kind of rule breaker or a justified man who is taking every opportunity he gets. If he gets a chance to grab the tights, he's going to do it because he wants to win the match. If he's going to grab the ropes, he's going to grab the ropes. It's not his morals and principles preventing him from his success.
Yeah.
He's going to get success no matter what, but he doesn't lie. He doesn't attack people from behind. Yes, he took Oku out in the 229, but that was more so that he could then sit and cut his promo on him.
Yeah.
And just kind of show, look, I'm just as big a deal as you are.
Yeah.
But yesterday, he was
Agreed.
attacking people that did not deserve it in the slightest.
Yeah.
He thinks Oku deserves it.
Yeah.
Owen Swain don't deserve it, and Keaton Cameron don't deserve it, and Kurt Atlas don't deserve it. So they shouldn't be getting attacked. And I think that's what Mambo was taking umbrage with.
Yeah, so do I, and that's why. And I loved, like, at first when TK went out, I was like, huh, okay, that's the. And then I think I said at that point I was like, Mambo's gonna be next, and he was, and I thought, like you said, I think that's a better way to do it rather than this face off in the ring and fighting each other. Actually, I think they said they did a lot more by them not getting physical at all, and TK watching Mambo get eliminated.
Because someone else said to me, they were like, "What if TK had taken Mambo's spot? What if TK had jumped Mambo on the way to the ring and taken his spot rather than Leland Bryant?" And my kind of attitude to that one was, but that's going all in on them and their tensions. Yeah. This is eking it out that bit further. Yeah. I'm really curious now. Are Sunshine Machine booked for the 229? Are either of them booked for the 229? Are either of them going to turn up? When a word's going to be said? Was there a backstage video last night recorded? Are we going to get that at some point this week? I want to know what TK has to say about Chuck and what Chuck has to say about TK. I think that's far more interesting for me than like blowing your load too quickly and having TK attack Mambo too soon into the match, the story.
Yeah,
I still think it's going to end with TK and Mambo being a team in Rev Pro. I just think it might take a long time for them to get back to that place.
Yes, yeah, and I hope it does, because I think what we've got now with TK is really, like, I just think it's a really good place for him right now, and he's thriving in it. So let's just keep this train rolling. Let's keep him the main character of Rev Pro.
What would you give the whole show out of 10, mate? I haven't really thought about this today.
I think I'm grading this on an event curve rather than just a show. I think I'm going at 7.5. Because I think, and I'm talking about that on like what I expect from an event rather than from a like a 229 or a regional.
I think I'd go 8. Maybe 8.5 if I was generous. For me, I'm always going to favour a big singles match rather than a rumble. I love a rumble because it's good fun. But the old, the idea that wrestling should be fun, I agree. But it should also be very, very serious. But the quality of the matches around it, the actual, just the mind confusion of the rumble itself, of me constantly thinking like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Oh, he's gone out. I didn't see that coming. Just the constant surprises and it being so hard to predict. There's nothing worse than a predictable rumble.
Yeah,
very clearly this 100%. And then you feel like you're spending an hour and 20 minutes just sitting there like, should you get to the final four? Should we just, oh, look, here's the surprise. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Like, there's nothing worse than that. So, 8.5, I think, for me. 8.5. I don't think that's me being generous. I think that's me being fair. I try, for goodness sake, my phone's killing me today. I don't know what I did with it when I came off the call to buy my ticket, but it doesn't think that I'm still doing something. It keeps trying to lock, so I keep having to press it.
Old man in technology.
We wrap it up. But, and there'll be things like, it was so hot yesterday. There'll be things like that which will subconsciously negatively affect your experience of it. But objectively looking at the quality of what we watched, talking about it tonight has made me realise how much I enjoyed it. Yeah, 8.5 for me. Very
Nice.
much in the conversation. If somebody told me this was their favourite Rev Pro show of the year, I wouldn't be surprised. High Stakes and Epic Encounter, those 3 shows, and ultimately that's a good job from Rev Pro, right? Because they're the shows where they should be shows of the year.
Yeah.
They're the shows they spent the most money on the show. They're the shows where they did the most promotion of them.
Yeah.
They should be the big events, and I think they're your top 3 shows of the year so far. Can't work out which one I liked more than the others because I don't think any of them were perfect, but all of them were excellent. Actually, I get this thing after a big show. I'm like, oh, that was that. I really like the big day out. I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to going back to the 229. And I'm really looking forward to my next Sheffield trip, my next Coventry trip, and my next Southampton trip, where you get all the little details, all the little breadcrumbs of the stories getting told. I'm ready to get excited for Summer Sizzler and the anniversary show, and a tag league when it comes, and a trios Grand Prix when it comes. Like, there's loads to be excited for.
There's a lot coming up, my friend. But you know what else? Put my teeth back in. What is exciting that's coming up? My dinner, mate. I'll catch you.
Yes, mate. I'm bloody starving.
I will catch you next time, my friend.
Love you, bro.
Bye.